Good morning. So yes, this is the Hemp and CBD Expo, about 95% CBD, about 5% hemp. So there's more to hemp than just cannabinoids. So I'd like to talk about the rest of the plant and its uses. So this is all about the barriers, the opportunities, and the solutions. So hemp has been around for quite a long time. This statement here just shows how old it is. This was in 1883, and you can see that in the UK, hemp was a huge industry. So it's been used as an agricultural crop for over 10,000 years. There's evidence of it being used in Mesopotamian times. It's been used throughout the world for all sorts of uses. It's been used as a medicine dating back 5,000 years in Chinese medicine and about 1,000 years in Indian medicine. It used to be mandatory to grow hemp across Europe. It was used for medicine, or what would be today food supplements. It would be used for food, rope, paper, textiles, animal bedding, lamp fuel, all sorts of things. It was a very important agricultural crop. In the time of King Henry VIII, he decreed that all landowners had to grow a certain amount of hemp for the navy. Our navy depended on hemp. We wouldn't have circumnavigated the globe if it hadn't been for hemp, because it was used for the ropes and the sails. In fact, the word canvas actually comes from cannabis. In Queen Elizabeth I's reign, farmers were actually fined for not growing hemp. So it's changed quite a lot with the Home Office rules today. So Prohibition, we know it doesn't work. So most people believe that cannabis was prohibited because of its psychoactive properties, because it gets you high. I don't really believe that. I think it was more to do with the corporations who hemp was their main competitor. So if you look at the paper industry, the timber industry, the cotton industry, the petrochemical industry, and the pharmaceutical industry, hemp was the main competitor, and I think that was the real reason that it was prohibited on a global basis. And these same industries have caused a lot of devastation to our environment. You look at what's happening now with petrochemical plastics in the oceans, the devastation of the rainforests. If hemp hadn't been prohibited nearly a century ago, I think the world would be a very different place and we wouldn't have such problems with climate change. Also, we know a lot about the endocannabinoid system now and how phytocannabinoids can really help us with our health and well-being. And I think having it prohibited and out of our diet for so long has probably contributed to a lot of the health issues we have today. Bringing phytocannabinoids back into the health system is going to help ease our NHS and help health and well-being in general. So what's the picture today? Well, you can grow hemp, but only the stalk and seed. I don't think the Home Office quite understand biology, that you have photosynthesis and you actually can't get the seed without the flower. Medical cannabis is legal as of the 1st of November last year, but it's not actually available to anybody, or very few. And that really needs to change. You know, there's lots of people who need it, people with very serious illnesses, and it needs to be available. It can't just be a whitewash to try and keep people happy by saying it's legal, but not actually having it available. So, So CBD products, as you know, are all imported because you can't actually utilize the cannabinoids or the flowers in the UK. The Home Office consider the flowers or any part of the plant that's not the stalk or the seed as a Class B controlled substance. So just as the US legalizes the growing of hemp with the 2018 Farm Bill, which was passed in November last year, a couple of weeks after, the EU tried to ban cannabinoids across Europe. So really what's going on? It's a bit of a mess. All medicinal plants, and there are lots of them. I'm not talking about cannabis, I'm talking about all sorts of herbs. There's thousands of different medicinal plants out there in nature, which you can go out and pick and harvest yourself. You're not actually allowed to consider them medicinal without a license, which can cost millions of pounds. So, the barriers to the UK hemp industry. There's the Home Office licensing. So if you're a farmer and you want to grow hemp, it costs about £580 for a 3-year license. If you get a compliance visit, which is rare, and that's really to check to see you're not growing the other kind of cannabis, that can cost over £1,300. It must be an EU-approved strain with less than 0.2% THC. It would be nice to see that level rise. You know, it's different in Australia, it's about 0.5%, and it really reduces the amount of strains that we can utilize. Stating the end use is a requirement, so if you are applying for a license to grow hemp, you're best off not saying that you want to use the flower to extract cannabinoids, because you just will get refused, you won't get the license. And as I've mentioned, only the stalk and seed can be used. The rest of the plant actually has to be destroyed on site, normally by retting, so it will just be left on the ground to rot back into the soil. I mean, it will help nutrients into the soil, but that's about it. It's a hell of a waste. So there's quite a lack of research into the agronomy, which is, you know, looking at which strains are appropriate for the UK climate, different soil types. You know, we need to know which strains are best for different parts of the UK so that we can get the best growth, whether you're growing for stalk or for seed. It's quite difficult to harvest. That's mainly to do with the fibers are very strong, and if you use something like a normal combine harvester to try and harvest it, it will wrap around the machinery and often cause damage. So you need specialist harvesting equipment. And processing as well. Processing is generally called a decortator, where you will separate the fiber from the inner core, the shiv, and it's quite a complex process, and it can be quite expensive to set up. So manufacturing and bringing products to market, we need to be putting the whole thing together. And there's also the public stigma. So there's still a lot of stigma. People get confused with hemp and cannabis. They don't realize that hemp is non-psychoactive. And you even see some YouTube videos of people who have bought a hemp t-shirt and they're worried they're going to get high from it. So opportunities. We've done it before, we can do it again. As I mentioned, the Navy relied on hemp for the ropes and the canvas. Before the late 1800s, about 90% of paper was made from hemp. In fact, the Gutenberg Bible and the St. James Bible, which was mass-produced, was all printed on hemp. So if you ever come across somebody who's religious and is against cannabis, basically their good book is printed on it. And also hempen clothing was very common, especially in agricultural times, because it's very strong, very hard wearing, and it has good thermal dynamics, so it will keep you cool in the summer and so on. So the green industrial revolution is coming. This is the time. The CBD industry has really made such a difference in public opinion, getting the industry up and running, but we need to be looking at the rest of the plant, not just the cannabinoids. So I say current markets here. These statistics are actually from 2013 from the European Industrial Hemp Association. We haven't got any more up-to-date statistics here, but it gives you a general idea of what the different parts of the plant are used for. So for the hemp fibers, which are the outer part of the stalk, about 57% are used for pulp and paper. These are normally specialist paper, like rolling cigarettes or artisan paper, not really so much for what you would put in your printer. About 26% for insulation, 14% biocomposites. So biocomposites are where it's mixed in with plastic. It's used a lot in car manufacturing. About 3% for technical textiles, which are very short fibers used, mixed with different compounds and plastics and so on. And only 0.1% for clothing, which seems quite astonishing. You know, China has a massive industry for clothing. These jeans, by the way, are made out of hemp. Thank you. So yeah, clothing would be a great industry. Then the shivs. The shivs are the inner part of the, you can see the picture there. You've got the fibre on the outside, and the inner woody core is the shiv. It's about 70 to 85% cellulose, and it has many different uses. So generally at the moment in the European markets, about 63% of it, most of it, is used for horse bedding, which is good. It's very antibacterial, it will absorb moisture, but there's many more uses that would be more worthwhile. About 16% used for construction, for things like Hempcrete, which is a sustainable concrete for buildings. About 19% for garden mulch, just for weed suppression, and about 2% for other uses. It can be used for growing mushrooms and so on. So, and then seed. So seed, I think this has probably changed since 2013. It used to really just be used in bird seed and for fish food. Most bird seed that you would get from like a garden centre would contain a certain amount of hemp seed. So these days, it's known so good for human health. It's really, the market's getting bigger where it's used for cooking oil, for flour, protein powder, hemp milk, which I love in my coffee, hemp hearts, which are the de-shelled seed, which is nice to put on salads and things. So that market is changing. So the seed, the nutritional value of seed is pretty much one of the best nutritional seeds on the market. It's got high protein, generally about 30% protein, which is really good. It contains all 20 amino acids. Some of those that we can't produce ourselves, you normally only find in meat and fish. The perfect ratios of omegas 3 and 6. Now, there's a lot of hype about, fish, oily fish. It's high in omegas 3, but it doesn't have the 6, and you need those good ratios to get the full benefit of health. So it's far superior to fish, and it's much more sustainable. And it's probably the best alternative to meat for vegetarian and the vegan diet, because it's just got everything that you need. The oil can also be used for other technical sort of things like paints and varnishes, but you don't find many on the market at the moment, but hopefully that will change. So then there's biocomposites and bioplastics. So hemp composites are really the fiber which is mixed in with some sort of polymer. And as I've said, it's used a lot in the car manufacturing industry. Most European car manufacturers, including BMW, Honda, Mercedes, use hemp in the building of the product. This car here is the Lotus Elise Eco, and the whole body is made out of a hemp composite. In fact, if you go back into history, Henry Ford, who created the Model T Ford, he built a prototype Model T Ford using hemp and flax biocomposite. So it's not new technology. And then there's plastics. So the plastic market is coming about. It's a great biodegradable plastic. It's compostable. We could really help save the world with hemp plastic. It's very strong, it's durable, and it can replace most petrochemical plastics. And because it's compostable, it's not going to go back into the ocean and destroy our environment. So then there's carbon negative buildings, so things like Hempcrete. This product, Hempcrete, is basically just the shiv, the inner woody core, mixed with lime and water. And once it's set, it's very strong. It's got brilliant thermal dynamics, so if you build a house with it, it saves about 30% over the lifetime of the building on heating bills, because it keeps the temperature regulated, so it keeps it cool in the summer, warm in the winter. It's antibacterial, so you don't get mold on the walls. It's breathable. It's flame retardant. We actually got a block like this and put a Bunsen burner to it for 20 minutes, and it just charred. So it's a great building material. It's very energy efficient, and it's non-toxic, unlike a lot of the building materials used today. A lot of people are getting ill from toxic housing. So why not replace it with something that's natural and good for the environment? So then there's textiles and rope. So this is another old technology. The reason for using hemp in textiles is it's 4 times stronger than cotton. Now, a lot of people think cotton, it's a plant, it's natural, it's good. It's not. It uses about 25% of the world's agricultural water and about 19% of the world's pesticides. And these leach into the soil, into the water systems. It's very poisonous, very toxic, and very bad. You can get organic cotton, and if you do choose ethically, then go for a mixture of hemp and organic cotton. So it's 4 times stronger. Again, it's thermally dynamic, so it's very comfortable, great for kids. It's antibacterial, and as I said, it's good for the environment. The paper and cardboard. So today, we lose about 116 square miles of rainforest due to cutting down the trees. That's about 1 acre per second. It gives you an idea of the devastation that's happening on a global perspective. And of course, we need these trees to absorb the carbon dioxide and release oxygen. We're going in the wrong path. There was no real good reason to replace hemp with tree paper, because it contains about 30% lignin, which has to be taken out using toxic chemicals and a lot of water. Hemp has only about 3 to 8% lignin, so it's much easier to process. It's much stronger. It lasts much longer. It could be recycled more times than tree paper, and it's strong and durable. So we need to really look at moving back to hemp paper. Then there's also soil restoration. The hemp plant, the cannabis plant, is a great phytoremediator. What that means is it will actually draw up heavy metals and toxins from the soil and absorb it into the plant. This is why it's very important with the CBD industry that we get all of the products tested for heavy metals, pesticides, mycotoxins, all that sort of thing, because it does absorb these chemicals. And if that goes into your end product, it's not good for the consumer. But if you were to use that for building, so you lock that into the building over hundreds of years, then that's a really good sustainable way of using it. So phytoremediation, it's also a great nutrient accumulator. The taproot of hemp can go up to 2 meters deep into the subsoil. So it goes right into the subsoil where all the nutrients are, and it brings it up to the topsoil. And when you leave the leaves to rot down onto the ground, it replenishes the soil. You can add biochar to the soil, which helps lock the carbon in the soil. That would help lock in those nutrients and nitrogen. So it's really important that we look at this as a soil restoration project for the farming community. Our soils only have about 15 to 20 years left before the soil's depleted, and then we can't grow our own food, we can't be self-sufficient. So we really need to look at our soils and replenish them back to good health. And then don't forget the cannabinoids. So, here in the UK, we've got the biggest CBD industry in Europe. We need to be proud of that. There's been a lot of media attention, some good, some with lots of medical claims, which as the compliance director, I'm not too keen on, as you can imagine. But it is out there in public domain. People are starting to realize that there's, a difference. Hemp is good, cannabinoids are good for health. It's not just about cannabis and getting high. It's changing public opinion, which is what we need. But we also need to work together as an industry. It's really important that we all work together, that we follow compliance, we protect our industry for the future, because there's a lot of people who depend on it. And that's the main thing. The main focus is helping people, helping health. So we need to keep working together. We're stronger together. So the solution is really a circular economy. So we need to be looking at all the different aspects of the hemp industry and putting it into play. So we need to be looking at farmers being able to help support themselves after Brexit, being able to grow a crop that they can sell into the market. We need harvesting equipment that can do with the job, the processing equipment. We need to put manufacturing in place so that all these different products and new products can be developed. That will create the market, which will reduce costs, because at the moment a lot of hemp products are quite expensive, but it's all scalability. As the industry increases, the prices will reduce. And we also need to think of end of life. So where does that product go once it's been used? Hemp is a great sustainable product, doesn't need chemicals, it's clean, and it will break back down into the earth and replenish the soil. So you need to be looking at it being composted and not going into landfill. All right, okay. So what's needed? So pretty much the same things I've been talking about. Investment needs to come in, people need to get together and bring that market together. So the education is the key. We need to educate people, we need to educate government departments, we need to get rid of the stigmas, and we need to educate people that there are all these products available. Most people don't know, they've never heard of hemp clothing or hemp rope, or, you know, we need to educate them on the benefits, the history, and it's a part of our culture, a part of our history, and we need to adopt that. So who do we educate? We need to educate the public, which is what I'm doing here this weekend, the farming community, and, you know, get them interested. There is a lot of interest at the moment. The government is one of the main things, so we need to educate the Home Office on how important this is post-Brexit and being able to utilize the whole flower, the whole plant. The healthcare industry, and different industry leaders, especially in the plastics and construction industry. So we need to look at hemp licensing, utilizing the whole plant, reducing these restrictions, having incentives for farmers, carbon negative construction, soil restoration, and making medical cannabis available to those who need it. So our objectives are to create a collective voice for a cohesive hemp industry. We need to lobby government and make these changes happen as soon as we can, because we can't keep waiting around. Create public support through education, and provide consultancy support and help for funding streams for hemp-based products and sustainable growth. We need to look after this planet. We haven't got much time. Is that okay? Okay, thank you very much.
Just got time for a couple of quick questions. I mean, the education, I've certainly been educated from that. I've learned a lot from hemp. It's interesting, and again, we're back to that message, aren't we, about this is our industry, and we need to have compliance and good regulation in place. Are there any questions for the audience? I'll take one or two questions. No? Yes, sir?
Hiya, mate. Yeah. So, like, from seeing the presentation yesterday by these you know, big sponsors you got, is there many industries that, like, through America, is there a lot of industries that are producing more clothes? Is it going to become cheaper? Because it's not really something that I've seen much of.
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem. There's not much in the UK, or even as I demonstrated it, like for clothing, there's only about 0.1% of the fibre is actually used for clothing. Most of the hemp materials that you get at the moment are coming in from China, which obviously you don't want to be bringing it across from the other side of the world. But, you know, we used to make hemp and clothing in the UK. You know, there's a history of it. We've got the technology, so really it's just putting it into place and building that infrastructure.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Guy's stand is immediately behind the stage here, so if you've got any questions for him, please do go and see him. If you could just put your hands together then for Guy Coxall. Thank you very much.
Thank you.